As we look to the future of healthcare and digital health, it's really clear that the new front door for care is in the home. For example, CVS and Walmart, they're considering the home and enabling tools to allow for care in that setting. But crucial to all of this is consumer trust. As a general comment, most of us are generally comfortable having Best Buy enter our home to set up a TV, but will we as a society be equally comfortable with having the Geek Squad enter our home to enable a telemedicine sensor or device? Megan, in your research, how are consumer patients feeling about that level of trust?
It's a super interesting question. I think we don't know quite yet, but what we can tell is there are certain value propositions that these types of companies have built their reputations on. So you just said with Best Buy, trust is huge for them, the ability, maybe not during COVID, but to come into our homes and help us, set up our technology, our cable, whatever it is. When you think about a Walmart, they've really built their value proposition off of offering kind of affordability and accessibility. And what those companies are banking on is that those values that they have kind of proven again and again to be their differentiators are going to translate when they move into healthcare. That people are going to trust Best Buy with the things that you mentioned, that people are going to be interested in having, certain levels of healthcare delivered at a Walmart or through a more online experience with them. And it's interesting because in our own consumer adoption data, we ask a bit about trust and specifically around who folks are willing to share their healthcare data with. So every year we're surveying 4,000 US adults. And people trust their provider for the most part to share their healthcare data, which makes sense. And then it's a pretty steep cascade. People for the most part trust their health insurance company, their pharmacy, but at the tail end of that cascade are pharma companies, the government, as well as tech companies. But it's kind of can that consumer brand that has become so trusted in this area of reliability, convenience, accessibility, affordability, all the things admittedly that people don't necessarily get out of a traditional healthcare experience, are they going to trust that brand when these big companies are moving into healthcare? I think we're seeing a lot of movement both with, I would say, kind of the aging in place arena, as well as the, I'll call it the digital footprint or digital journey arena. So taking each in turn on the aging in place side, I think there's just a ton of opportunity to build solutions for the baby boomer population, especially when in digital health. When we look again at that consumer adoption data, we find that the likeliest adopters of these things tend to be younger in the millennial generation, tend to be higher income, tend to be urban rather than rural. And it's kind of if we want to overcome some of the disparities that we've seen in how healthcare services are delivered, in outcomes of certain populations, we got to think about how we build for that, and certainly seeing that in terms of reaching the aging population.
Yeah, it's going to be a key question, and it's going to be a key factor. Okay, so we've talked about trust, but are there other consumer adoption factors you see that are going to be critical as these more traditional retail and tech giants shift into healthcare?
In terms of kind of this idea of the digital front door or organizations having to build their digital footprint, that's what the retail giants, the kind of progressive health plans, that's what they're doing. And I think if health system or incumbent health plans sit on their heels, consumers are going to find different paths to care. We see that even before COVID, the vast majority of Americans are going online to look up treatment information, look up diagnosis information. They're bringing that information to their doctor. And so when you see emerging companies like an Ada or a Babylon or a Buoy, they're really trying to make this more seamless experience. And if you, especially as a provider, if you don't have your pulse on that digital footprint, how people are finding you, how people are navigating to your services, are you giving them a more accessible telemedicine option, or at least directing them to an open appointment, helping them deal with their issue when they're in crisis, I think you're going to lose out to those that are really great at building those digital consumer experiences.
Yeah, it really feels like healthcare is shifting in favor of, really empowering the consumer and making her feel, that it's a priority. And I'm really excited to hear all that.